seek to hold these guys accountable.
Okay.
And usually when these things happen, people say that they're being witch-hunted, you know. So it's not. So in South Sudan, Mr. Museveni should be helping the peace process rather than helping one side. You know. Number two, quite clearly, Riek Machar, who's a party, you know, to the peace process in South Sudan, you know, is under house arrest. And finally,
yes,
I found something very interesting, and I think we saw doing the social media rounds, that apparently Salva Kiir told, and I don't want to box Comrade Rich on this, you know, that Salva Kiir allegedly told Raila Odinga that he should ask permission from Mr. Museveni on whether or not he should see Riek Machar. And I was quite surprised actually, because when Raila was setting off from Nairobi, I was generally quite optimistic because I do commentaries on some of these things and I advise on some of these regional issues. And so I actually thought that it was a very good sign and a good intervention. Yes. And even when Raila was on his way to seeing Museveni, I hadn't it known, and I was quite happy that he was coming to see Museveni, I hadn't known that he hadn't met Riek Machar. It's a very unfair system. So the people in South Sudan, by the way, I know you're taking my time on this. I mean, you think I'm taking time. People in South Sudan are extremely angry, just as people in DR Congo are extremely angry about the involvement of Ugandans, and in this case, Mr. Museveni's regime, in our names, something that cannot be fairly explained to the people here. Finally, there is an allegation going on. There's an allegation going on that you know, some of our people are dying in Congo, and there's an insufficient explanation to our people. So I can go on and on and on. So no, I think Parliament should not approve this.
Honorable, which in just a minute, sir.
In a minute, one. On the issue of whether or not Uganda government signed with a partition person in South Sudan. First of all, the status of forces agreement being implemented was signed in 2014. And I do believe, because that is the agreement they are working on. Now, yes, a government signs on behalf of government. The Attorney General of that country is the chief legal officer of that country. So I don't know this call for Riek Machar being here and Salva Kiir being there. The state of the forces agreement between the two countries was signed in 2014. Even if it was signed today, I do not think a government is in vacuum because of an agreement. A country cannot be in vacuum. There's a government in place, there's a president in place, there's an attorney general in place. So whichever they sign is signed on behalf of that country.
That's what I was also saying.
Yes. Two, yes, is that Congress seems to import a lot about rumors. So, you know, in Parliament there's a rule that you are not supposed to bring rumors to the House. Rather, you make news in your discussion and the newspaper pick. Okay. Now he's repeatedly picking this rumor.
In this country, rumors can actually
no.
Because of times, I'm not going to give.
By the way,
we shall have that conversation.
No, very quickly.
Julio Hill Josh is watching live from Luemiaga, Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for watching. Honorable Chin, I'm going to come to you, but this time around on the issue of HIV infections, especially in rural Uganda. People are being forced to buy drugs because they cannot get these ARVs. That's one of the claims that we have got. And most of these people,
I hope Comrade Rich will not call that a rumor.
Infections. I was going to tell you that this country, rumors actually have an element.
We are talking about rumor in DRC. Now we are starting to import a rumor in DRC.
What do you think, sir, on the plight of these young people, or the people who have these HIV infections? What do we do if US cut funding and now we're seeing people buy?
US cut funding, and it's basically part of the conversation. I'm just quite surprised how much we need to say to talk about within this short period of time. No, if I use the word rumor, I take responsibility. But you know what? I'm partly diplomat and a leading politician, and I know what some of these things are. We all know, the three of us know, the four of us. There's so much information we know, and we just responsibly want to hold back because we don't want to escalate issues. And some of them are very terrifying things, by the way. And so sometimes we hope that when you come to television like this, you have a conversation and hope that sometimes maybe somebody watching, or sometimes maybe some of us in the course of our own conversations, we review our own consciences so that we're able to strategically consider how best it is for us to move forward. Now, quite clearly, there was a pompous response to the U.S. aid cutting of support. Apparently, Uganda is one of the few countries that receives the highest amount of money. Now, while the NRA guys will always boast about injection in health, which we don't see because most of it is stolen anyway, nearly 80% of our health budget is apparently externally supported. It possibly makes my point much more important, that I don't think we can afford a fancy way of going to do some kind of mercenary work in South Sudan, where there's actually, in any case, there's rumors that, okay, can we really call it rumors? There's word that actually some of these things, the Ugandan authorities are being paid cash by South Sudanese authorities. So, so there's quite a lot on this thing I'm saying. So if that is the case, that some of these things are happening, that South Sudan is paying Ugandan authorities money in a certain way, then our soldiers are mercenaries, in which case then, considering the excess of corruption, the extent of corruption in this country, you wonder where the $12 million US are going to go. And so if you're going to be discussing Umeme, and we see from Museveni's own letter, we know that actually there are mafias in Uganda's establishment, then it's not surprising that our health sector is like this. Clearly, I hope it's urgent that we're able to have a national conversation where, and this is election year, where political party leaders basically table in their manifestos programs for national alternative budgets, where we scrutinize spendings in health, spending in education, spending in key public services in lieu of the donor aids.
What is the now solution we can give those people who are now procuring?
Just take a cut from State House. You know, the Burkina Faso military regime of all people cut the salaries of cabinet by 30% and doubled salaries for civil servants. In this country, maybe, and this is a big ask for the members of parliament, maybe we should reduce their pay by 50%. I don't see any justification for members of parliament earning the amount of money that they are. I'm an aspiring and desirable person to go into that assembly, and I've been before, but I don't see how we can justify the huge amount of spend for members of parliament. I don't see why we should justify the amount of money that ministers spend. Mr. Museveni's State House, daily spend for him and his wife, actually, you know, the children and grandchildren moved out. You know, we spend nearly 3 billion Uganda shillings on those. I mean, let Mr. Museveni actually trim down and also live within means. After all, this guy lived very ordinarily. Some of us know before. 2/3 of the expense we have down there should go into public health. You know, there is a way in which we're able to rejiggle these things, and the only thing is that is the will and the leadership, and unfortunately, it's not going to come from NRA.
Okay, Nasuna, Tahia, Twaha Matova, I have your messages. I'll be reading them subsequently. Honorable Paula Awich, these HIV cases are increasing, especially in rural areas, and some of the victims or the people who have this particular condition are being forced to procure ARVs. This is not sustainable. What do you think about that?
You see, I attended as a director in the ruling party a meeting of NRM caucus in Kololo sometime last year, I think. The meeting, I think it was a meeting, or the other year, it was a meeting before passing the anti-homosexuality bill. And the American government under Biden then had threatened to cut this. So, Museveni in Kololo warned Ugandans, and especially the members of parliament, because they were agreeing on that bill. He said, you guys, you have the power to pass the law, but I want to draw your attention to the implication of one, that we shall be faced with managing these health matters, because Americans are going to cut the money for HIV/AIDS. And the members of parliament said, no, we want our freedom, let's pass the law. So that was the time, even before the Trump.
Yes,
even before the Trump. And the President Museveni said, therefore, we should be prepared to tighten our belt because we're going to face this. Now, we pass the laws, but somehow we go through it. Now, Trump without tagging it to the law, Trump is simply saying America first. So he doesn't see where America should be giving out through USAID. So he cut it and we are affected.
What should
now,
we do then? Because that's
now
what we're directly affected.
Now, what we should do is what President Museveni hinted in Kololo. So we have to generate our internal money. Otherwise, these people will die. Now, generating our internal money is part of what Congressman said. It includes, it's a wide spectrum of things. Not only generating by revenue collection. You can generate by revenue collection, but you can also generate by cuts and changing your priorities, okay? So, and I believe that it is not only Uganda being affected, the entire world. In fact, in Africa, it's a call to Africa that we must manage our own affairs as Africa. If we ever thought we were going to depend on foreign aid, this is now a real wake-up call as Africans or as Ugandans to stand on our own feet.
Is government intentional about really addressing these issues? Because
yes, it is. It is intentional. That's why I'm telling you, President Museveni alerted us even before the cut. In fact, he alerted us in connecting it to anti-homosexuality law.
First, we want the results.
Because by then they didn't act. The Americans didn't act. They have acted now. You see, yes, the President Museveni was just warning us, but the Americans didn't act. Now they're acting now. So now the warning now comes in place. You said, yes, it's now a call to say, please, can you now talk on your independence? Okay. So it is internal now. And internal revenue collection, as I said, does not only mean more URA collection, Uganda Revenue Authority collection, but it also means the prioritization of priorities, including the voices coming like those spent on Sudan. These are part of the voices. And remember, the voices that the country make crystallize into a decision. That is why you have this discussion. Who can tell? Maybe their voices will be heard.
Yeah, they
but
will be heard.
Somehow, as a country and as a continent, we must come with a solution.
Thank you so much. You're still watching our Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Brooke Williams, you say I personally had a conversation with many people from South Sudan. Those people are angry with Ugandan president. Nasu Natahia, you say I'm following in here at Muduma. Please ask retired Major Awichi's comment and opinion on the death of an expectant mother who lost her life and baby due to traffic lockdown associated with the president movement in Kampala. We heard of that story. Then you also say shout outs to Honorable Mayanja Muzukulu wa Mukajanga. Libawa, you are watching. Then I also have a message from Twaha Matove. You say Oluzunguruka. Let's take a break. This is the Hotline Show. When we come back, I'll hear in from Mr. Matovu, and we'll also be talking about the Umeme exit of Uganda's system. Let's take a break right about now.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues. Real talk.
Hi, Rogers. Can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity,